I wasn't there when Trevor found my note, but Monica told me later that she heard him scream from her parking lot and she lives 3 houses down from us. It was 6:47 in the morning on a Saturday. I know the exact time because I was sitting in Monica's living room staring at my phone waiting for the moment when Trevor would wake up and realize I was gone. I pictured it in my head. How he'd reach across the bed for me like he did every morning. How his hand would touch cold sheets instead of my warmth. How he'd open his eyes and say my name. Amber? No answer. Because I wasn't there. I imagined him sitting up, confused, looking at the bathroom door, maybe thinking I was in the shower. But the bathroom would be dark and silent. He'd call my name again, louder this time. Still nothing. I'd left at 5:30 that morning, while the sky was still dark and Trevor was still sleeping peacefully next to me. I'd watched him for a minute before I left. His face looked so calm, so innocent, like he hadn't been lying to me for months. By 6:47, Trevor would be walking through our house looking for me, calling my name in every room. My car wouldn't be in the driveway, my phone would go straight to voicemail because I'd turned it off. That's when he'd start to panic. Monica's phone buzzed at 6:52, a text from Trevor's number. "Is Amber with you?" Monica looked at me. I shook my head. She didn't respond to his text. I knew what would happen next because I'd planned it perfectly. Trevor would go downstairs to make coffee, still confused, still worried. And that's when he'd see it. The envelope on the kitchen table, white and square, his name written on it in my handwriting. I'd spent an hour the night before deciding exactly where to put it. Not on his pillow. That felt too dramatic. Not by the coffee maker. That felt too casual. The center of the kitchen table was perfect. He couldn't miss it. My hands were shaking now as I sat on Monica's couch. Even though I wasn't there to see it, I knew it was happening right now. Trevor was picking up that envelope, opening it, pulling out the note I'd written, reading the words that would destroy him. "Trevor, I know about Vanessa. I know about the lunches and the late nights and the messages you thought I'd never see. I know you've been lying to me for months. I'm not angry, I'm just done." That's when Monica and I heard it, even from 3 houses away, even through closed windows. A scream, not an angry scream, not a frustrated yell. This was the sound of a man's whole world falling apart. It was desperate and panicked and broken. Monica's eyes went wide. "Was that Trevor?" I whispered. The scream cut off suddenly, like he'd run out of air. Then there was silence. My phone was still off, but I could imagine it lighting up with his calls. I could picture him sitting on our kitchen floor, the note crumpled in his hands, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. Monica sat down next to me. "Are you okay?" I didn't know how to answer that. Was I okay? My husband was 3 houses away, probably crying. My marriage was over. I'd just blown up my entire life with a single note. But I also felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, something that surprised me. Relief. "He's reading it right now," I said quietly. "He knows I'm not coming back." Monica squeezed my hand. "Do you regret it?" I thought about that text message I'd seen on his phone a week ago, the one from Vanessa that started all of this. "Hope your clueless wife doesn't find out how you blush when I touch your hand. See you tonight." I thought about how Trevor had smiled when he read it, how he'd called it a joke when I confronted him, how he'd made me feel stupid for being upset. "No," I said. "I don't regret it." My phone was still off, but I knew what was happening. Trevor was calling me over and over, leaving voicemails, sending texts that I wouldn't see for hours. He was panicking because he'd lost control, because for once I wasn't being understanding and forgiving. I wasn't giving him a chance to explain or make excuses. I was just gone. Monica got up to make coffee. I stayed on the couch, listening to the silence. The scream had stopped. But I knew Trevor was still on our kitchen floor, still holding my note, still trying to figure out what to do. "What do you think he's doing right now?" Monica asked from the kitchen. I closed my eyes and pictured him, his hands shaking, his face pale, reading my note over and over, hoping the words would somehow change. "He's realizing he can't fix this with a smile and a lie," I said. "He's realizing that I actually left." Monica brought me a cup of coffee. I wrapped my hands around it, feeling the warmth. Somewhere 3 houses away, my husband was falling apart, and I was drinking coffee. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt sad. But all I felt was tired. So tired of trying to ignore what I knew was true. So tired of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. The note was my way of finally telling the truth. And from the sound of that scream, Trevor had finally heard it. 3 weeks before I left that note on the kitchen table, everything seemed normal. Or at least I told myself it was normal. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always my longest days at school. Parent-teacher conferences in the morning, staff meeting after classes, then grading papers until my eyes hurt. I came home around 5:30, exhausted but in a good mood. One of my second graders had finally learned to read a full sentence without help, and that kind of thing always made my whole day worth it. Trevor was supposed to be home by 6. We usually cooked dinner together on Tuesdays. It was our thing. He'd chop vegetables while I handled the meat, and we'd talk about our days. But at 5:45, my phone buzzed with a text from him. "Meeting running late. Be home around 8. Sorry, babe." I stared at the message for a second. This was the 3rd time in 2 weeks he'd come home late. But Trevor had a big project at work. He'd told me about it. Something important that could mean a promotion. "No problem," I texted back. "I'll keep dinner warm." I cooked alone, made his favorite, chicken pasta with the garlic bread he loved. I ate by myself at 6:30, put his plate in the oven on low heat, and watched TV until I heard his car in the driveway. It was 8:35 when Trevor finally walked through the door. "Hey," he said, dropping his bag by the couch. He looked tired, or maybe distracted. I couldn't tell which. "Long meeting?" I asked. "Yeah, you know how it is." He kissed the top of my head as he walked past me toward the kitchen. "Thanks for saving me dinner." I followed him and watched as he pulled his plate from the oven. He sat down at the table, and I sat across from him with a cup of tea. "How was your day?" I asked. "Busy. Lots to deal with on this project." His phone was on the table next to his plate. It buzzed. He glanced at it, and I saw the smallest smile cross his face before he picked it up and started typing. "Who's that?" I asked. "Just work stuff." He didn't look up from the screen. His phone buzzed again. He typed another response, faster this time. I tried to see the screen, but he had it angled away from me. Not obviously. Just enough that I couldn't read what he was writing. "Trevor?" He was still looking at his phone. "Can you put that away? I haven't seen you all day." "Oh, yeah. Sorry." He set the phone down, but kept glancing at it while he ate. He took 3 bites of pasta and barely seemed to taste it. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Fine, just tired." But his leg was bouncing under the table, that nervous habit he had. We went to bed around 10:30. Trevor fell asleep fast, like he always did. But I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to him breathe. His phone was still in his hand. The screen was dark, but I could see notification lights blinking. I'd never looked through Trevor's phone before. Not once in 5 years of marriage. I wasn't that kind of wife. I trusted him. But something felt wrong. Carefully, slowly, I reached over and took the phone from his hand. He didn't wake up. I turned it over and saw the lock screen. 4 notifications from someone named Vanessa. My heart started beating faster. I didn't know anyone named Vanessa. Trevor had never mentioned anyone named Vanessa. I could unlock his phone. I knew his password. He'd never hidden it from me. I could read those messages right now and find out what they said. My finger hovered over the screen, but I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready to cross that line. Maybe they were just work messages. Maybe Vanessa was just a coworker and I was being paranoid. I put the phone back on his nightstand and rolled over, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there in the dark, listening to Trevor's peaceful breathing, while my mind raced with questions I was afraid to ask. The next day at lunch, I called Monica. He came home late again, I told her, and he was on his phone the whole time during dinner. Monica had been my best friend since high school. She knew me better than anyone, and she'd been warning me for weeks that something seemed off with Trevor. "Amber, you need to pay attention to this," she said gently. "These are red flags." "It's just work," I said, but my voice didn't sound convincing even to myself. "He has that big project." "Does this big project have a name?" I was quiet for a second. "Vanessa texted him 4 times last night." "Who's Vanessa?" "I don't know, someone from work, I guess." "Did you ask him about her?" "No." Monica sighed. "Amber, I love you, but you can't just ignore this. Talk to him. Ask him directly who this woman is." "I don't want to seem like the crazy, jealous wife," I said. "You're not crazy. You're noticing that your husband's behavior has changed. That's called paying attention." We hung up, and I went back to teaching my class. But I couldn't focus. All afternoon, I kept thinking about those notifications, about the way Trevor had smiled at his phone, about how he'd angled the screen away from me. That evening, I got home before Trevor again. I was in the living room grading papers when I heard his car pull up. He came inside, said hello, and then his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his whole face changed, brightened. "I need to take this," he said, and walked into the other room. I sat on the couch, holding my red pen, listening to Trevor's voice coming from the kitchen. He was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard from him in months, at least not directed at me. The conversation lasted 10 minutes. When he came back into the living room, he was still smiling. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just someone from work." He sat down next to me on the couch. "Anyone I know?" "No, you don't know her." Her. The way he said it made my stomach turn. So casual, so unconcerned, like it was completely normal for some woman I'd never heard of to make my husband laugh like that. "What's her name?" I asked. Trevor looked at me, and for just a second, something flickered in his eyes. "Why does it matter?" "I'm just curious." He picked up the remote and turned on the TV. "Just a coworker, nothing important." But if she wasn't important, why wouldn't he just tell me her name? I went back to grading papers, but I wasn't seeing the words on the page anymore. All I could hear was Trevor's laugh, the one meant for someone else. Friday came exactly 1 week after I first noticed something was wrong with Trevor. 1 week of watching him smile at his phone. 1 week of late nights and vague explanations. 1 week of trying to convince myself I was imagining things. That evening, Trevor said he was going to take a shower before dinner. I heard the water running upstairs while I stood at the kitchen sink, washing the pan I'd used to make rice. His phone was on the counter, charging, screen facing up. I wasn't planning to look at it, I really wasn't. But then it lit up with a new message, and the preview was right there on the lock screen, long enough that I could read the whole thing without even touching his phone. "Hope your clueless wife doesn't find out how you blush when I touch your hand. See you tonight." The sender's name was Vanessa. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the pan I was holding. I set it down carefully in the sink and read the message again. Maybe I'd seen it wrong. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. But no, the words were still there. Clueless wife. When I touch your hand. See you tonight. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I couldn't breathe right. The kitchen felt too small, too hot. Upstairs, the shower was still running. I had maybe 3 minutes before Trevor came back down. I picked up my own phone from the counter with shaking hands. I opened the camera and took a photo of Trevor's screen. The picture came out blurry the first time because my hands wouldn't stay steady. I deleted it and tried again. This time, it was clear enough to read. I put my phone in my back pocket and stepped away from the counter. My legs felt weak. I turned back to the sink and picked up the pan again, scrubbing it even though it was already clean. The water turned off upstairs. I heard Trevor moving around in the bathroom. I forced myself to keep washing dishes, to look normal, to breathe. A minute later, he came downstairs wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. His hair was still wet, dripping onto his shoulders. He walked straight to his phone and picked it up. I watched his face as he read the message. I watched him smile. Not a small smile. A real one. The kind he used to give me. Then he noticed me watching him. The smile faded. What? My voice came out calmer than I expected. Who's Vanessa? Trevor's whole body tensed for just a second. Just someone from work. Why? I saw the message. I watched something cross his face. Panic, maybe. But it was gone in a flash, replaced by confusion. Like he had no idea what I was talking about. He looked back at his phone, reading the message again. When he looked up at me, his face was innocent. Too innocent. Oh, that? It's nothing. Just an inside joke from the office. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Vanessa's like that. She jokes around with everyone. She has a weird sense of humor. That didn't look like a joke. I was still holding the pan. My knuckles were white from gripping it so hard. Trevor walked over and put his hand on my shoulder. His touch made my skin crawl, but I didn't pull away. Babe, you're overreacting, he said softly. His eyes looked so sincere, so honest. Vanessa just likes to be dramatic. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm not going anywhere tonight. I'm right here with you. But the message said, "See you tonight." I'd read it 3 times. It definitely said that. I looked at Trevor, and he looked back at me with those eyes that I'd trusted for 5 years. Eyes that were lying to me right now. Okay, I heard myself say. I even managed a small smile. If you say it's nothing, then it's nothing. Relief flooded his face. Exactly. Don't let your imagination run wild. He kissed my forehead, then went to the fridge to get a beer. I turned back to the sink and finished washing dishes. My hands had stopped shaking. Now they just felt numb. We ate dinner together. We watched a movie. Trevor sat close to me on the couch, his arm around my shoulders, playing the part of the good husband. Around 9 o'clock, he stood up and stretched. I need to run to the store real quick, he said. We're out of milk. We weren't out of milk. I'd bought some yesterday. Okay, I said. I'll be back in 30 minutes. I watched him grab his keys and his phone, watched him walk out the door, watched his car pull out of the driveway. Then I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo I'd taken of Vanessa's message. See you tonight. Trevor had just left, at 9 o'clock, to supposedly buy milk we didn't need. My fingers were shaking again as I pulled up Monica's number and pressed call. She answered on the second ring. He's lying to me, I said. My voice cracked. Monica, he's lying right to my face. Monica showed up at my house 23 minutes after I called her. I was still sitting on the couch staring at the photo of Vanessa's text on my phone when I heard her car pull into the driveway. I let her in and showed her the picture without saying anything. Her face went hard as she read it. That's it, you need to follow him right now. He said he'd be back in 30 minutes. We can catch up to him. Monica, I can't. Yes, you can. Get your keys. Let's go. But I couldn't do it. I wasn't the kind of person who followed their husband around town. I wasn't the kind of person who spied and snuck around. I was a teacher. I helped children learn to read. I wasn't a detective. I can't, I said again, and I hated how weak my voice sounded. Monica sat down next to me. Okay, then what do you want to do? I don't know. We sat there in silence until Trevor came home 35 minutes later. He was carrying a small bag from the convenience store. Milk was inside. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe he really had gone to buy milk. But when Monica left and I put the milk in the fridge, I noticed it was the wrong kind. We always bought 2%. This was whole milk. Trevor knew that. We'd been married 5 years. He knew what kind of milk we bought. That night, lying in bed next to him, I made a decision. I was going to find out the truth, whatever it took. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. Every time Trevor took a shower, I checked his phone. I knew his password. I'd always known it. He'd never tried to hide it from me because he'd never had anything to hide. Or so I thought. The messages between him and Vanessa made me feel sick. They weren't sexual. Nothing like, I want to kiss you, or I can't wait to be alone with you. But they were intimate in a way that felt worse somehow. Messages about inside jokes I wasn't part of. You always know how to make me laugh, she'd written. Trevor had responded with a smiley face, compliments that crossed lines. You look good in blue. You should wear it more often. That was from her. Trevor had worn his blue shirt to work the next day, plans to have lunch together that Trevor never mentioned to me. Same place tomorrow, 12:30? And Trevor's response, I'll be there. I screenshotted everything, sent the photos to my own phone, then deleted the sent messages so Trevor wouldn't know. I felt like a criminal in my own marriage. I started checking our credit card statements online, charges at restaurants I'd never been to. Italian place downtown, sushi restaurant near Trevor's office, coffee shop I'd never heard of, all on days when Trevor said he was working through lunch. The dates matched up with the messages about meeting Vanessa. I created a fake Instagram account. Just a random name, random profile picture I found online. I searched for Vanessa Cole. Found her immediately. She was beautiful. Younger than me. Maybe 27. Long dark hair. Perfect smile. Confident in every photo. I scrolled through her pictures with my hands shaking. There were lots of photos from bars and restaurants. Photos with friends. Photos from her gym. Then I found one from 2 weeks ago. She was at a bar with a group of people holding up a drink. The caption said, Great night with great company, with a heart emoji. Trevor was in the background of the photo. Not front and center, not obvious, but there. Standing near the bar, smiling at something off camera. Smiling at her, probably. I sat on my bedroom floor with my laptop, staring at that photo until my eyes burned. On Wednesday, I called my mother. Can you come over? I asked. I need to talk to you. She heard something in my voice because she didn't ask questions. Just said, I'll be there in an hour. My mother drove an hour from her house to mine. We sat at my kitchen table, and I showed her everything. The text messages, the credit card charges, the Instagram photo. She didn't interrupt, just looked at each piece of evidence carefully. When I was done, she took my hand. What do you want to do, baby? She asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to confront him, but part of me is scared of what he'll say. My mother was quiet for a moment. You deserve honesty, Amber. You deserve respect. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for expecting those basic things. Not even your husband. We talked for 3 hours. About my marriage. About my options. About what I really wanted from my life. When she left, I felt different. Stronger somehow. That night, when Trevor came home late from working, I was calm. I'd made his favorite dinner, pot roast with potatoes. I'd even baked cookies. Wow, he said when he walked in and smelled the food. What's the occasion? No occasion, I said, smiling. Just wanted to do something nice. We ate together. I asked about his day, laughed at his stories, didn't mention Vanessa once. Trevor relaxed. I could see the tension leave his shoulders. He probably thought the storm had passed, that I'd believed his explanation about Vanessa's text being a joke. He thought I'd let it go. But I hadn't let it go. I was just getting started. That night, I lay in bed next to Trevor while he slept peacefully. His breathing was slow and even. He had no idea what I was planning. I stared at the ceiling in the darkness and made my decision. If Trevor wanted to play games, I could play too, but I was going to win. I called in sick to work the next morning, told my principal I had a family emergency and needed a personal day. It wasn't exactly a lie. My family was falling apart. That felt like an emergency. Trevor left for work at his usual time, kissed me goodbye like he always did, told me to feel better. He had no idea what I was about to do. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I got dressed and left. My first stop was a bank across town. Not the one where Trevor and I had our joint account. A completely different one. I opened a new account just in my name. The woman helping me asked if I wanted to add my husband to it. I said no. Then I went home, logged into our joint savings account on my laptop, and transferred half the money into my new account. $18,000. It was money I'd earned, money from my teaching salary that I'd been saving for years. I had every right to it. But my hands still shook as I clicked the transfer button. Next, I called the lawyer Monica had recommended, a woman named Patricia Chen who specialized in divorce cases. I need to know my options, I told her on the phone. We talked for 40 minutes. She explained how divorce worked in our state, what I'd need to prove, what evidence would help my case. Do you have proof of the affair? She asked. I have text messages, credit card charges. I don't know if they've actually slept together, but there's definitely something going on. That's enough to start with, Patricia said. Gather everything you can, bank statements, tax returns, proof of assets. If this goes to court, you'll need documentation. I made an appointment to see her in person the following week. After I hung up, I drove to the storage unit Trevor and I rented. We kept old furniture there, holiday decorations, boxes of things we didn't have room for in the house. I found the box with my important documents, birth certificate, passport, social security card, my college diploma. I took the whole box and put it in my car. Then I drove to Monica's apartment and left it there. Are you really doing this? Monica asked as I set the box in her spare bedroom. Yes. Over the next week, I became the perfect wife. I cooked Trevor's favorite meals every night: chicken parmesan, beef stew, homemade lasagna. I smiled when he came home late. I didn't ask about Vanessa. I didn't check his phone anymore. I already knew what I'd find. I didn't need more evidence. I just needed time to prepare. Trevor relaxed. I could see it happening. He started being more affectionate again, holding my hand while we watched TV, kissing me before bed. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe he was just relieved that I'd stopped asking questions. But while Trevor thought everything was getting back to normal, I was busy. I started packing. Not obvious things. Trevor would notice if all my clothes disappeared from the closet. But I took things from the back. Clothes I hadn't worn in a while, my favorite sweater that had belonged to my grandmother, the dress I wore on our first date that I could never throw away. I packed photos from before we got married, pictures of me and Monica in high school, pictures of my dad before he died, pictures of my mother at my college graduation. I took my grandmother's jewelry, the necklace she'd left me in her will, the bracelet my dad gave me for my 16th birthday. Everything that mattered to me, everything that was mine before Trevor, I packed into boxes and took to Monica's house, one box at a time. Trevor never noticed. I made copies of all our important papers, bank statements from the past 2 years, our tax returns, the deed to our house, our car titles, everything Patricia had told me I'd need. I kept it all in a folder hidden in my car. Monica came over on Thursday while Trevor was at work. She sat at my kitchen table and watched me organize documents. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" she asked. "Once you leave, there's no taking it back." "He's been lying to me for months," I said without looking up from the papers. "Even if he hasn't actually cheated yet, he's been having an emotional affair. He made me feel crazy for noticing. That's enough. What if you're wrong? What if it really is just—" "It's not—" I finally looked at her. You told me to trust my instincts. I'm trusting them. Monica nodded. Okay, then I'm with you. Whatever you need. On Friday evening, exactly 2 weeks after I'd seen Vanessa's text message, I sat down at my kitchen table with a blank piece of paper. I wrote the note. It took me an hour to get the words exactly right. I rewrote it 4 times until it said everything I needed it to say. Cold, final, done. I folded it and put it in an envelope, wrote Trevor's name on the front. Then I packed one last bag, just essentials, toothbrush, change of clothes, my phone charger. I put it in my car trunk where Trevor wouldn't see it. Everything was ready. Trevor came home at 9:30 that night. Another late night at the office. Another lie. I was already in bed, pretending to read a book. He came upstairs, got ready for bed, and climbed in next to me. He kissed my forehead. Love you, he said. Those words used to mean everything to me. Now they just felt empty. Love you too, I said anyway. I waited until his breathing got slow and deep, until I was sure he was asleep. Then I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m., early enough to leave before he woke up. I lay there in the darkness next to my husband, counting down the hours until morning. Until I'd finally be free. My alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. I turned it off fast before the sound could wake Trevor. He was still sleeping next to me. On his back, one arm stretched above his head. He looked peaceful, like he didn't have a care in the world. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could, grabbed the clothes I'd laid out last night and took them into the bathroom, got dressed in the dark, jeans, comfortable shirt, my warmest jacket because the mornings were getting cold. I brushed my teeth and pulled my hair back, looked at myself in the mirror. My face looked pale, tired, but my eyes were clear. I was really doing this. I picked up my shoes and carried them downstairs. Each step felt impossible and necessary at the same time. The stairs creaked under my feet, and I froze, listening. But Trevor didn't wake up. In the kitchen, I made coffee. Just habit. I'd been making coffee every morning for 5 years. My hands moved automatically, scooping grounds, pouring water, pressing the start button. Then I realized I wouldn't be here to drink it. I poured the whole pot down the sink and watched the dark liquid disappear down the drain. The envelope was sitting on the counter where I'd left it last night. White. Trevor's name written on the front in my handwriting. I picked it up and walked to the kitchen table, placed it right in the center where he couldn't possibly miss it. Then I stood there for a minute looking around. This kitchen, this house. I'd thought we'd live here forever. I'd pictured children sitting at this table eating breakfast, family dinners, birthday parties. A whole life we were supposed to build together. But that life was based on trust. And Trevor had broken that. I picked up the bag I'd packed and walked to the front door. Took one last look at our living room. The couch where we'd watched movies, the bookshelf we'd built together, the wedding photo on the wall. Then I opened the door and left. The drive to Monica's apartment took 12 minutes. The streets were empty this early. The sky was just starting to turn light at the edges. I pulled into Monica's parking lot at 6:15. She was already waiting by the window. She opened the door before I could even knock. "Did you do it?" she asked. I nodded. "The note's on the table. He'll find it when he wakes up." Monica's living room was warm. She'd made coffee. Real coffee. Not the kind I'd poured down the sink. She handed me a cup and we sat down on her couch. And that's when it finally hit me. I'd just left my husband. My marriage was over. Everything I'd known for the past 5 years was gone. I started crying. Not the quiet kind of crying. Big, shoulder-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. I couldn't breathe right. Couldn't stop. Monica put her arms around me and didn't say anything. Just held me while I fell apart. I don't know how long I cried. It felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Around 7 o'clock, my phone started ringing. Trevor. I looked at Monica. She looked at the phone. Neither of us moved to answer it. It rang until it went to voicemail. Then immediately started ringing again and again. 12 calls in 20 minutes. Then the voicemails started. I put the phone on speaker so Monica could hear. The first message was confused. Amber, where are you? Call me back. The second one sounded worried. Babe, I found your note. This isn't funny. Where did you go? The third one was panicked. Please call me. We need to talk about this. You've got it all wrong. The fourth one was desperate. His voice was shaking. I'm sorry. Whatever you think happened, I'm sorry. Just come home, please come home. I listened to each voicemail with tears still running down my face. Monica squeezed my hand. Do you want to hear what the note said? I asked her. She nodded. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app where I'd saved a copy of what I'd written. My voice was steady as I read it out loud. Trevor, I know about Vanessa. I know about the lunches and the late nights and the messages you thought I'd never see. I know you've been lying to me for months. I'm not angry. I'm just done. I've taken what's mine and left what's yours. My lawyer will contact you next week about the divorce. Don't try to find me. Don't try to explain. There's nothing you can say that will change what you've already done. I hope she was worth our marriage. Amber. Monica let out a long breath. That's perfect. Cold and final. My phone rang again. Trevor. I didn't answer. By noon, Trevor had called me 43 times. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls, voicemails, text messages. Some were apologies, some were explanations, some were him begging me to just talk to him for 5 minutes. I couldn't eat. Monica made me a sandwich, but it sat on the plate untouched. I just kept staring at my phone, watching Trevor's name appear over and over on the screen. Then at 12:47, a text came from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. My hands started shaking as I read. Amber, this is Vanessa. I don't know what Trevor told you, but you need to know the truth. Nothing physical happened between us. Nothing. Yes, I sent flirty messages. Yes, I liked the attention. But Trevor never crossed that line. Every time I suggested we go somewhere alone, he made excuses. Every time I touched his hand, he pulled away. The night I sent that text about, see you tonight, Trevor didn't show up. He canceled on me to go home to you. I was angry, so I sent that message to make him feel guilty. It was wrong and stupid, and I'm sorry. But your husband never cheated on you. He just didn't shut me down fast enough, and that's on him. But he loves you. He talks about you constantly. I was jealous of you, if I'm being honest. That's why I pushed so hard, but he never took the bait. You should know that before you throw away your marriage. I read the message 3 times. Monica read it over my shoulder. Could be a lie, Monica said quietly. She could be covering for him. Or it could be true, I whispered. I thought about all the evidence I'd collected. The text messages were flirty, but never said anything about sex. The restaurant charges could have been business lunches. Trevor did have a big project at work. Maybe I'd jumped to conclusions. Maybe I'd destroyed my marriage over something that almost happened but didn't. My phone rang again. This time it was my mother. I answered. Baby girl, she said gently. Trevor called me. He's a mess. He told me everything. Did he cheat? I asked directly. My mother was quiet for a moment. He says no. And honey, I believe him. But that doesn't mean what he did was okay. He lied to you. He hid things from you. He let another woman disrespect your marriage. Those are real problems even if he didn't physically cheat. What should I do? That's not for me to decide, she said. But ask yourself this. Is he sorry because he got caught, or is he sorry because he hurt you? And can you forgive him? Not right now, but eventually? After we hung up, I sat with Monica in silence for a long time. Finally, I picked up my phone and texted Trevor. I'm at Monica's. If you want to talk, you can come here, but I'm not making any promises. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Trevor was standing there and he looked terrible. Eyes red and swollen. Hair a mess. Same clothes he'd slept in. He looked like he'd been crying for hours. Monica let him in but sat next to me on the couch. Protective. Trevor sat across from us and started talking. He told me everything. How Vanessa had started flirting with him months ago. How he'd liked the attention because it made him feel interesting. How he knew it was wrong but didn't know how to stop it without making work awkward. How he never touched her, never kissed her, never wanted to actually cheat. I was stupid, he said, and his voice broke. I liked feeling wanted, and I didn't think about how it would hurt you. When you saw that text and I called it a joke, I saw the look in your eyes. I knew I'd broken your trust, and I've been sick about it ever since. Why didn't you tell me the truth then? I asked. Because I was scared you'd leave me, so I lied and made it worse. I looked at him. This man I'd loved for 5 years. This man who'd just admitted to being a coward. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said honestly. Trevor nodded, tears streaming down his face. I know. But I'm asking you to try. I'll do anything. Couples therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll give you all my passwords, whatever you need. Monica spoke up. Amber, can I talk to you alone? We went into her bedroom. She closed the door and looked at me. What do you want to do? Really? I sat on the bed. I don't know. Part of me wants to stick with the divorce, but another part wonders if I overreacted. There's no wrong answer, Monica said gently. But don't decide today. Give yourself time. I nodded. I went back to the living room where Trevor was waiting. I'm not coming home today, I said. I need time to think, but I'm willing to talk. We can meet with a marriage counselor next week. After that, I'll decide. Relief flooded Trevor's face. Thank you. I promise I'll prove I'm worth it. Over the next 2 weeks, we met with a counselor 3 times. Trevor quit his job and started at a different company. He showed me every text, every email, proving there was nothing to hide. Slowly, I started to trust again. It wasn't easy. Some nights I woke up angry. Some days I wanted to just sign the divorce papers. But I also saw my husband trying desperately to fix what he'd broken. 3 months later, I moved back home. Not because everything was perfect, but because our marriage was worth fighting for. We weren't the same couple anymore. That innocent trust was gone. But what we were building now was stronger because it was built on honesty. I kept the note in my desk drawer, a reminder that I was strong enough to walk away if I needed to, and a reminder that sometimes the hardest choice isn't leaving or staying. It's deciding which one takes more courage.